Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha.
Well, I tell you why. Rachmaninoff was possibly the greatest pianist that ever existed.
That's the SLSO performing the first movement of Sergei Rachmaninoff's symphonic dances earlier this month. It was a one-night-only concert at Powell Hall featuring the program the orchestra's musicians have taken on a 4-country, 5-city tour of Europe this month. It's the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra's first international tour since 2017. It's also its first under music director Stéphane Denève. The tour started last week in Austria, moved to Belgium, then proceeded to the Netherlands, and it concludes tonight in Madrid, Spain, at that country's largest classical music venue. Music director Stéphane Denève spoke with me yesterday morning from his hotel room. Stéphane, welcome back to St. Louis on the Air.
Hello, nice to speak with you from Madrid.
Now, earlier this week, you are now in Madrid, you were in Belgium, and it was a homecoming of sorts for you. You previously served as music director of the Brussels Philharmonic. How did it feel to return there, Stéphane?
I was so proud to show to the audiences that I know very well there and many friends in the room why I made my musical home in St. Louis and also my full home, because I live in St. Louis since last year, and there was something really special in the moment, which is an incredible energy, which started because as I addressed the audiences, suddenly I said, well, that I was happy to be back in Brussels, in Belgium, a country I love, and then somebody actually screamed so loud, "Stéphane, we love you!" And that took me by surprise, the orchestra too. Everybody applauded to seemingly agree with his statement. And we were in for definitely a love fest, because the audiences adored the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. They played so well. It was really very impressive how they played that day.
And was that a reception? I mean, personally, that must have been a wonderful thing to have, almost like a bravo before you've even begun. But were you expecting that kind of reception for the SLSO musicians in Europe?
Actually, to be honest with you, yes, because I'm very confident about what we can offer. I mean, we had the concert played in St. Louis audiences the week preceding the tour, and it was already a home triumph, and I knew that people would react extremely well. And, you know, we are an ambassador of our community, and we show this warm sound. And yesterday was fantastic. We were in Amsterdam, which is one of the best acoustic in the world. Really a great hall. And strangely enough, we all thought it was quite similar to Powell Hall. So the musicians were reminded that we have an absolutely great world-class hall in St. Louis, and it was just fabulous to see the reaction. Like all the artistic directors and directors of the halls, for instance, were all so impressed by the orchestra, offering us direct re-invitation and commenting highly on the level of our gem that is the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful to hear. Now, as far as the program goes on this 4-country, 5-city tour, we played a bit of Rachmaninoff's symphonic dances at the top of this segment. What is it that made you choose that particular piece?
Well, it's a very meaningful piece that speaks about life, death, and actually triumph of life over death. So it's already a great masterwork. But on top of it, it's a piece that was written in America for an American orchestra. And so I kind of love the idea that we could show that music unites the world unite the people, and that indeed it's a Russian composer that actually left Russia and composed in America a piece influenced by American jazz. There was even a saxophone player actually in the piece, and that was my idea. The start of the program is also a piece, by the way, that was composed for America, for the Chicago Opera. We play the Love of Turangi Suite by Prokofiev, and those pieces on top of it have something I love. They are full of color. They are very, very intense, extremely virtuosic, and I wanted to show, of course, the extreme virtuosity and talent of our orchestra.
So it sounds like it was a very vibrant set of pieces that you've played. Now, before we move on from symphonic dances, one of the things that you have previously said is that symphonic dances is a quote-unquote desert island work for you. And sort of given the overall feel and tone of the repertoire that you have presented, what does this desert island part, how does it fit in and what does it mean?
Well, I tell you why. Rachmaninoff was possibly the greatest pianist that ever existed. And he wrote, as we know, many pieces for piano, of course, and many concertos for piano and orchestra. Actually, a pianist myself, as a young man, I played a lot of his music, and I feel very close to his spirit. And I discovered the symphonic dances quite early in my life when I was a student in the conservatoire in Paris. And right from the start, I just loved this piece. And I always thought that this was a very particular piece of Rachmaninoff because he wrote it at the very end of his life, and he's quoting himself heavily. And it basically speaks about his entire journey of music and of life. And so it became for me an iconic piece in my repertoire. And that's why I wanted also to perform this piece because it means a lot to me.
Mm-hmm. And the program also features an acclaimed pianist and recording artist, Vikingur Olafsson. He's performing Edvard Grieg's piano concerto in A minor. What's the reception been like for him? And is that too something that you were expecting traveling abroad?
Well, I tell you, we have had a lot of standing ovations, and for him, for the other pieces of the program, it's really incredible, and we are very lucky to tour with him because he's a big new star of the piano, and he has an amazing contract with Deutsche Grammophon. He's extremely famous, and I must say, people are so happy to come to listen to him with us, and I'm amazed by he played 2 encores at each concert because the audience could not have enough of him, and I understand because he's really very unique. He does play with a very personal sense of taking this Greek concerto in another dimension. He doesn't want to do something that is overly sweet or like something that is overindulgent. He kind of make it very modern, and I found his interpretation really fascinating, and it's a triumph every night.
It sounds like you are thoroughly enjoying yourself as this tour is happening. You have mentioned earlier playing in halls that had acoustics that were somewhat similar to Powell Hall, and you've now played in Powell Hall so much. How has it been for you and the musicians to be in other spaces? And is there anything that you have noticed about the sound there or here as a result of that?
So people have to understand, sometimes they don't know that we play acoustically, meaning we are not amplified at all. So we always play within the acoustics of a hall, and it's like every hall is like a different instrument, offering a different balance. Some halls you have more resonance, less resonance. Some halls you have more presence of the basses, some you have more presence of the treble note. And what is fascinating is you have to adjust to that to offer, of course, the signature sound of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. And it's great because the musician can hear different things in each hall. And I discussed with musicians, many of them say like, oh my God, I in this hall, it was so clear that I heard, for instance, more notes in some part of the orchestra that I never heard so well normally, or et cetera, et cetera. So this is really very, very interesting for the personal development of our musicians because it allows them to hear differently, to react differently, and so that's a great thing. Mm-hmm. And on top of it, I think it's really special to be able to show actually who we are and what we represent in the community, and to put St. Louis on the map of many music lovers, because it's a way for them to just know more the region, the state, and there's not a lot of institutions that can represent what St. Louis is abroad, like in a tour. It's a really unique opportunity to be ambassador of our community where I live now.
And does that ambassadorial aspect, does that come with any feeling of responsibility or burden, or is it mostly good vibes?
No, it's a joy. It's a joy because, look, let's face it, sometimes in the news, what can be the international news can sometimes be not the most flattering aspects. And I am so happy that we can change this narrative and tell to the world there are a lot of great things happening in St. Louis. And then we meet, we go to embassies, we meet people, we have dinners after, and then I'm always happy to explain the quality of life I have in St. Louis and what are the other great institutions there. And so it's really a way to influence people to know better all what St. Louis has to offer, mm-hmm. and how much it is a music center in the U.S.
And so then you are playing before audiences who ostensibly are very aware of what is going on in the world of classical music. To what extent are people in Europe aware of or familiar with St. Louis as a place for the kind of music that you have taken from St. Louis over there?
Well, it's funny. I was discussing that with our pianist, Viking Olafsson, actually, because he thinks, and I'm quoting him, that we are entering the golden age again for the St. Louis Symphony. I said again because the St. Louis Symphony has started as the second oldest orchestra in the country and is a historical treasure. And there was a lot of highlights during the history. There was 31 years of music directorship of Vladimir Golshman in the midst of the 20th century that were already something very special. Then there was a very special moment with the music directorship of Leonard Slatkin, because he actually really put St. Louis on the map thanks to a lot of fabulous recording that he did. And so when I'm in Europe, a lot of people, mainly specialists of classical music, remember the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra thanks to the recordings of Leonard Slatkin. Mm. And it's great that now, having this background and this memory, they can be refreshed to see what this orchestra has become since, and see how in great shape this orchestra is, and what they can offer today. So I must say it is really a pleasure for me to revive, let's say, the special place that St. Louis Symphony Orchestra had in the heart of music lovers in Europe.
We're speaking with Stéphane Denève, who's music director of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. And he's speaking with us from Europe, where the SLSO is on its first international tour since 2017. Now, I wanted to return to what we were talking earlier about regarding different venues, and then what you have just said about what people know of or about St. Louis insofar as classical music is concerned. Is there perhaps a specific example of a way you and the musicians have had to adjust in real time to a venue in order to really show what SLSO is and how it plays its music?
Yes, I can tell you precisely. What was very interesting is that we started the tour in Vienna, and it's a quite different acoustic, and we had to walk right away in the rehearsal. We had luckily a rehearsal of 1 hour before the concert where we could adjust and we could actually feel that this hall needed much more legato, and for instance, which I mean to really slur the notes together, to just make something very polished. And this hall, for instance, was very reactive to the change of dynamics. This hall, normally in power hall, we have this really warm resonance that would smooth the big change of dynamics and make things more sustained, let's say, easily. And so it was interesting because I had to ask, like, look, to have the same effect that we have in power hall, we have to really be careful that all our change of dynamic are very, playing louder or softer, are very progressive, that we just keep the sustained sound in order to replicate what we have as a result thanks to the fabulous acoustics of power hall. And so they very quickly adjusted to that, and that way we could offer, as I said, this very unique, warm, lush sound that we hear at power hall.
And how does that change the way you conduct?
My gesture, of course, are always reacting to what I hear. So I will, without thinking, actually, I will just have gesture that becomes a little bit more, let's say, horizontal or showing something that is more sustained. And I would have gestures that are a little bit more caressing the melodies in a way that we can really build longer, sustained phrases. So it's amazing because it's just a pure reaction of what I hear. It's like a pianist adjusting to a piano and trying to play differently with a different type of piano you can have. It's the same there. The SLSO is my instrument. I really interact with it permanently, and it's a give and take. And it was the opposite, for instance, in the Concertgebouw, this amazing hall in Amsterdam, which is a tiny bit more resonant than power hall. So during the rehearsal, I was asking to play what we say marcato, which is to really articulate very strongly the beginning of each note, to be more intelligible, to be more speaking, to have more rhetorical quality. So there we had to do the opposite, to just play a little bit shorter, to not sustain the notes so long, to cut them precisely in order to rearticulate the next note more precisely. So we did this thing as well. And always the wish is to try to, at the end, replicate the signature sound of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra, which I treasure.
Mm-hmm. And through this process of being in different places, different spaces, different audiences, is there anything in particular that you feel that that you and the musicians have been able to learn together through this opportunity that you otherwise might not have been able to glean?
Yes, I think it's a kind of bonding experience because it's a team experience. We live together. We are in the same hotels. We see each other at breakfast, at lunch, at dinner, and we share experiences because, of course, we all visit places. I was lucky enough to visit the Vermeer exhibition, for instance, in Amsterdam, which is absolutely mind-blowing. This was so beautiful. And all the musicians visited as well a lot of museums in Vienna because we were there early to recuperate from the jet lag. So there was time for a bit of of tourism there for one day. And I think it's really a great way for people to connect better, to know each other better, and yes, it's a team building as well, which is very precious. So I think the SLSO, after a tour like that, gets even stronger in its powerful team effect.
Stéphane Denève is music director of the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra. Thank you for joining us from Europe, Stéphane.
Thank you very much, Ellen. And I hope you can follow online at slsostories.org. On the website, we posted a lot of photos, a lot of clips, a lot of anecdotes. So really, people have been following us. But if you didn't, it's still time to go. It stays there, and you can see what an amazing tour we have and how we presented our community here in Europe.
The SLSO wraps up its European tour tonight in Madrid, Spain. That performance will wrap the orchestra's first international tour since 2017. Stéphane Denève joined me yesterday morning from his hotel in Spain.
Today's episode was produced by Alex Hoyer.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
Our production intern is Avery Rogers.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Our podcast proudly supports St. Louis artists by using music from Life Creative Group.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.